Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla, let's go over the market, let's talk about what's happening in yet another painful day in the market. It feels like the market is pretty much in a full kangaroo market mode right now, including Tesla going up and down quite literally 5% almost every single day. Pretty wild stuff, but nonetheless, let's jump into it. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice, and I am not a financial advisor. And of course, I do have a membership section where I share, post updates, etc. intraday as the market is trading mainly on Tesla stock for $3 a month, sometimes other stocks as well, or $5 a month for the second tier, which includes NVIDIA plus the first tier. But jumping into it, Tesla closing the day down just over 5% on the day, closing at $225 per share, which is something that we talked about yesterday. Right? Remember yesterday we mentioned how we're in this kind of solid sideways consolidation, and pretty much it comes down to a break above this level or a break down below this level. Obviously, and sometimes unfortunately, especially in a market like this, we ended up getting the break pre-market or after-market, I think, I think it was pre-market, not post-market. Yeah, we got the breakdown pre-market, and sometimes that's how the cookie crumbles. But nonetheless, the point is the fact that we did get that break back down under, right? So we exited this consolidation range, and we clearly picked a direction to the downside, right? And not what I was obviously hoping to see, if essentially, but like I said, hope is not a strategy, right? You pretty much react to the level. So personally speaking, what I did was, of course, once we opened up and we had this small little push to 230, I ended up de-risking the shares that I was buying pretty much right around this area for a small loss. And then as we got the low of the day, I ended up selling a cash secured put lower. So essentially, either I'm going to be buying these shares back that I sold for a small loss all the way down here, which that cash secured put premium already pretty much brought back that loss to pretty much break even, or Tesla goes sideways, or it finally gets a break back above, and then I can re-enter with shares, and the cash you could put down here is pretty much free money. So this is the way I'm personally looking at it right now. So what actually moves forward with Tesla? Like what do we, what does Tesla need to do? So again, Tesla's in a peculiar spot. Why? Well, again, going over to the weekly, this is the most interesting thing to me, right? This is one of the most intense sell-offs the stock has faced, and this is Tesla. This is a stock that is used to having pretty wild swings, but this is, even for Tesla, pretty insane, right? I don't think I've seen Tesla go from the upper end of the Bollinger Band that was also pretty wide to the bottom end this quickly ever. Like, I don't think that's ever happened to this extent. I mean, this was probably the only other time where it happened arguably as fast, and that was when Elon was selling and the whole market was actually tanking as well. This was, I believe, that 2022 kind of bear market that we had. So we're pretty much mimicking bear market price action right now in Tesla stock in terms of speed and relentless selling pressure. But nonetheless, that's just to illustrate one more time that this is a pretty unique situation Tesla finds itself in. Go ahead and bring this up. So what does Tesla need to do to save itself, or what is the potential downside expectation from here moving forward, right? So clearly there's some buying pressure and demand, if you will, right around this range all the way down here. We found a nice bounce from there before, right, where we had that move up into the pretty much 250s ultimately, and now we're pretty much right around there. There's a few interesting things. First of all, we actually still, despite the market selling off, Tesla is just continuing to show pretty much pretty substantial weakness. It still wasn't able to break this low. We were still able to hold it. Now you can obviously rather make an argument that this is a small little bear flag essentially setting up. You can easily make an argument that it looks something like this. So we can see how this actually plays out. I mean, tomorrow is JPOW. We have a lot of bear flags in the market. Tomorrow is JPOW. So we'll see what he decides to do with this. But, you can definitely make an argument this is a bit of a 15-minute bear flag setting up, and this thing can potentially crumble down even further. At the very least, to retest the actual lows that we had back here, which we pretty much down to about $220 per share. In my opinion, worst case scenario short term would be a move pretty much right to this gap fill, which is going to be sitting at about $213 per share, which is that pivot point, which will be pretty interesting. So if Tesla ends up actually selling all the way down here to actually truly fill this gap at pretty much 213, this would be interesting because the RSI is actually still showing relative strength. Right, we are essentially making equal lows now. RSI is still making very obvious higher lows, which is good. If we actually come down here and let's say even especially close a candle down at about 213-ish, let's say, and the RSI most likely will still continue to print a higher low, that's going to be a very strong bullish divergence, which is going to be a good sign of things to come, right? And that's of course assuming we continue holding the 213 level. Obviously, if we break 213, the next level down will be this pivot point all the way down here, closer into the pretty much 180/190s, and worst case scenario, and this is like if things really just want to flush everyone out as much as possible and create mass fear and panic essentially, is going to be a move all the way. And this is, again, in my opinion, the worst case scenario. Back to this green trend line right here, which again, we found substantial bottoms, like quarterly quarterly bottoms on Tesla stock many times over, and that would bring Tesla somewhere to about $170 per share. That to me is like the worst case scenario, right? If we really just want to flush things down and just really get this over with and sort of like rip the band-aid off, that is the worst case scenario, right? Which from here would be another move of about still another 25%, which honestly, at the rate we're going, that will take about a week, honestly. But, that's the main thing to watch for moving forward for Tesla stock, right? Do we hold these levels down here? Do we set up that bullish divergence, right? Do we come in gap fill? Like, we're in a pretty strong area that can contain selling pressure, at least for now, right? Obviously, again, if we start cracking this level right around here, about 213, then we most likely head even lower. So watch for that moving forward, and watch for potential lower low on the stock, but a higher low on the RSI for that bullish divergence. And that's kind of the main levels of the downside for support and potential continued weakness if Tesla does play out, especially with JPOW tomorrow and FOMC tomorrow, and we have OPEX on Friday. If this bear flag actually ends up playing out, we most likely will continue that selling pressure down to those levels like I just mentioned. At the very least, to retest these equal lows down here at 220. Worst case, short term, very short term, worst case would be about this 213 gap fill. Now, the upside. Let's say this breaks to the upside, because Tesla has a habit of taking bear flags or bull flags and doing the exact opposite with them. So for instance, just as an example, all the way up here, I remember everyone up here was talking about how Tesla was essentially in a bull flag. It was looking like something like this. Something like this. I can't remember exactly, but it was along the lines of this. Everyone was talking about this bull flag. And I've mentioned, if you go back to these videos, it was one of the videos up here, I mentioned how Tesla usually likes to take what looks to be a bull flag and actually break down. It's done that many times in the past. Like if I go all the way back to this, for instance, right here, nice little move up, right? Seemed like a little bit of a bull flag, nice little zigzag for a continuation. Nope, we broke down, right? Same thing pretty much right around here. Nice little move up, nice little potential bull flag setting up. We broke down, right? Nice little bear flag setting up right here. After this nice move down, oh, we went up. It loves doing these things. It loves taking these massive price actions that look like they're bull flags and they break down, versus taking what looks to be like a potential bear flag, and essentially breaking to the upside. It really likes to do that. But again, we're not going to assume here. We're going to just, of course, let it play out, and we'll see how the market reacts and how Tesla reacts in this little small, again, it's a small bear flag, but a bear flag nonetheless, and we'll see how it plays out. Essentially, if Tesla starts losing mid 223s, we'll say, watch for this bear flag to play out as a bear flag. If we start getting back above, I would say at least 227 to 228, then this bear flag will most likely get voided and we most likely make our way back up. So let's, we'll watch for that moving forward into tomorrow, right? Well, at least I will with my members, but that is probably the main watch tomorrow, especially with FOMC on deck. Now, what does Tesla need to do to turn things around? What does it need to do to save itself? What can it do to stop this bleeding and actually find a semblance of life essentially in the stock, right? What can it do to finally get an actual rally, some form of relief, right? So it's not just pretty much getting beaten down almost day after day, right? For like the past 2 weeks or even 3 weeks or however long this has been. Well, pretty simply put, on the 1 hour chart, there's a few things that need to happen, right? I would argue 3 things. The first, which is going to be just essentially a break back above this level, right? The low 230s. If Tesla can break back above the low 230s right around here, that's going to be really, really good. I will view this as a potential false breakdown, which would be very bullish. If it, of course, plays out like that. And that'll be a good sign to come. And we can also potentially start printing what could be a potential inverted head and shoulders like this, right? So let's see how that plays out. But that's step number 1. It wants to break back above essentially the low 230s and turn it back into support. Step number 1. Step number 2, it needs to essentially reclaim these EMAs and more importantly, turn them green and above the 50 EMA. We have not been able to do that a single time during this whole downtrend, right? This whole downtrend has not happened a single time, and any single bounce has been essentially rejected at that 50 EMA you can see right here. Not just Tesla, like Google, for instance, pretty much the same thing. You can see it got very close over here, but it just couldn't get that full crossover with the EMAs, right? And Google, as you can see, also getting the same rejections. Amazon, pretty much the exact same thing, 50 EMA rejection, 50 EMA rejection, 50 EMA rejection, and it just cannot get these smaller EMAs, the 8 and the 21, to cross as well and get, more importantly, back above the 50, which shows bullish pressure, which is something NVIDIA has done, right? And that's why it's had this, decent rally so far. Now it's obviously in a bit of a pickle here, which I'll talk about in the NVIDIA video. There's still hope though, but it kind of wants to do something like this, or something that AMD has done right here. You can see, which is why it's kind of showing relative strength, especially AMD, because it's got that bullish crossover. It's got that momentum, at least short term, for the bulls, right? Now, obviously this is short term, it's only the 1 hour chart, but nonetheless, the relative strength is clearly there, which is a good sign to see. So what does Tesla need to do? It needs to do those two things first and foremost, right? Those are the first two things that need to be done in order to even have any sign of hope, essentially. The second thing that needs to be done on Tesla stock to really kind of get it some, actual bullish momentum and truly make it, actually rally back up to the high 200s even, is a break above this level right here, right? Pretty much the level we got rejected at arguably 3 times over here, which was the pivot point back here. Pretty much the very low 250s, 251, 252, something like that. That level needs to get broken and, more importantly, turned back into support. So something like this essentially needs to happen on Tesla stock, more or less, right? And unless that can happen, obviously the stock is still obviously in bearish territory. It's still the bears still have control of the stock until something like this can happen. Can it happen? For sure. Will it happen? Well, nobody knows. We can only react, right? Which is why I'm sitting in cash secured puts personally, as I wait to see what happens. Either it does this and I can pretty much get the free money in cash secured puts and then enter the shares raw, either on a reclaim or that retest, or it goes sideways as we await and maybe does not too much, or I end up taking the shares that I pretty much sold right here and buy them about $15 lower. It's essentially one of those things needs to happen, right? I don't know which one's going to happen, which is why I'm kind of playing that patience game right now, letting it sort of unfold, let the cards show themselves. But right now, I assume bears have slightly more control than not, mainly because we broke down from this sideways consolidation. So that's pretty much the main thing that Tesla needs to do short-ish term. And those are the main downsides, right? So again, we could potentially print a double bottom here. That's step number 1, potential. Number 2 is we go all the way down to fill the gap at 213, create a bullish divergence on the daily chart on the RSI. And then from there, we could potentially rally. However, if we start losing this level as well, and we start closing daily candles below this level as well, and especially visibly turning into the resistance, well, then we most likely head back to the 180s, 190s. Worst case scenario, like I said, all the way back to the green trend line, closer to 160s roughly. But that's the worst case scenario. And again, the upside scenario I just mentioned, break back above the low 230s, turn the EMAs back into pretty much green bullish territory, especially above the 50 EMA, and of course, more importantly, break back above pretty much this 250 region, right? Very, very crucial. So yeah, that's kind of how I see it. So let's see how that plays out. Let's see what actually, forms from this. We have potentially a big catalyst still, right? Today was VIX expiration, which could be one of the reasons the market was facing a lot of pain. But on top of that, FOMC tomorrow, and of course we have OPEX on Friday. So pretty big catalyst still that can definitely have the market swinging pretty wildly. So let's see how that plays out. But yeah, that's my thoughts. Let me know what you think down below. In terms of options flow for Tesla stock specifically, pretty mixed flow. I mean, definitely more bearish than bullish, but overall the flow has been pretty mixed. Most of the bearish flow was definitely in the morning. Obviously, with the markets, with Tesla selling off, but in terms of the end of the day, Tesla is actually confirmed 90 million bearish flow. But again, with these bearish flows, don't forget, just a few days ago, it was confirmed I think it was 200 million bullish flow. So that obviously didn't turn out very well. So you want to take these kind of things with a grain of salt in a market like this, right? You never really know for sure. The market is pretty wild, especially when you're gapping up and down like 3-4% almost every single day. So it definitely takes patience and, at least some level of risk management and not really truly rushing into things too quickly. But yeah, that's my thoughts. Let me know what you think down below, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.